Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are getting ready to hop into our next series, and unfortunately Saravati and Bales had already started their series. I took a look around, you know what, I just said, let's try and go for, I guess, number of games since we're already on that path. I didn't really see any other major games that really stood out to me, so I hopped into one of the matches that I at least know two of the players. I know that they're both GM level players, and I know they've been playing lately. That's an important part about this now that I'm realizing. So hopped into Fat Cat Chef versus Kelazhur. I think that Kelazhur is going to be incredibly favored, but I think it should still be an interesting series nonetheless. So we're going to hop into it as the players are hopping onto Galactic Protocol, and I do not have a map intro for this, so we're going to be hopping straight into the game. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Galactic Protocol, one of the new maps that is around, and we're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map on top of the red Terran player from Root Gaming. It's Kelazhur. And his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, the pink Zerg player. Give it up for Fat Cat Chef. So again, Kelazhur going to be heavily favored in this matchup. I mean, very extremely favored. But Fat Cat Chef is a player that can potentially upset. This is still a very new map pool. And this is sort of the opportunity that I think any player has to try and really abuse the map, really find new weird things that your opponent is not necessarily expecting. Not to mention, Zerg players are definitely feeling a little bit more comfortable in this matchup than a lot of Terran players, especially in Europe and North America. But Kelazhur is one of those players that I would say, if of the Terran, there are certain Terran players out there that say, you know, I like to get up to a nice macro game, I like to sit back, I like to maybe put on little bits of pressure here and there, but for the most part, I like to make to that late game. Those are the ones that really end up struggling versus Zerg these days because of the ultraless tech and such. But with a player like Kelazhur loves to put on harassment, and you already see that he's going for something a little bit cheeky. He's going for 3 racks Reaper, and this is going to be on a map that you do have a decent amount of space to jump out of the main base. It's very similar to Frost. Late night when you need me. I don't even know what that's about, but first Reaper does come in. This is not going to be much of a reveal so far for Fat Cat Chef. He is going to have to pull his Zerglings over and already ends up losing one of the drones. Does need to make sure he makes a Spore Caller with this other drone. Does manage to save that one. And it's still just going to be taking a couple of losses. But it's when the other Reapers get here that we start seeing a lot of problems be caused. And in some ways, this kind of build can be a bit of a blessing for Fat Cat Chef, because if you can deal with the big all-in, you don't have to worry about playing Kelazhur in a big old long macro game where, you know, that kind of experience that he has and it's the caliber of players that he's played against. It's not really going to come as much into effect. As long as you can find a way to deal with the one base all-in, you can find a way to survive and take it to the late game, maybe with a nice little advantage. But so far, it's not looking too great for him. He's lost a lot of drones. He's already almost close to losing one of his queens. In fact, I feel like this may already be game. None of these Reapers have gone down. Are we going to have a flawless game from Kelazhur? Hasn't even lost an SCV. Spinecrawler is up, and this one Reaper does take a shot. I mean, Kelazhur's just doing so much damage, and the Spinecrawler is not covering the mineral line itself. In fact, Kelazhur can just continue to make these Reapers more and more, and eventually concussive grenade down this Spinecrawler, probably. A lot of these Zerglings also taking lots of splash damage. Behind this, Kelazhur does grab that natural expansion. And things are looking very grim right now for Fat Cat Chef. I like the idea of trying to catch the Reapers as they move across the map. The biggest danger about this build is if the Reaper count spirals out of control, if it escalates. But unfortunately, he still hasn't killed a Reaper, so Kelazhur is onto him, and oh god, now we even see that the Spinecrawler is trying to reburrow, so some more Zerglings are going to go down. It's burrowed at the ramp, which the Reapers will just go in and ignore. And they're going to retreat to the Spinecrawler, try and pull the drones. One of the Reapers gets very low on health, but he's still... I'm not even going to show the production down. I'm going to show the resource loss, because we're going to see if Kelazhur can pull a perfect game out right here. For the... Oh, God. The couple of Reapers on the low ground. Kelazhur migrating in 2 different fronts. The Roaches are now out. Kelazhur could very well lose his first unit over here, but no! The Roaches all end up dying. GG, well played. It's a perfect game, and Kelazhur takes game number 1. Well then. So Kelazhur's favored coming to this. I don't know if I mentioned that. Oh. Nanoflower actually talking about Fitzy here a little bit more, saying nobody would have thought anything about Fitzy here if I hadn't said Fitzy here was a good player. I want you guys to go and look at like results and stuff for Fitzy here. He is not a terrible player. He just, I guess, hasn't been playing as much lately or something. I know because I looked at he was on, because I pay a lot of attention to the North American ladder. I pay a substantial amount of attention to it because I run an entire tournament that revolves around the North American ladder. So I notice when players like Fitzy here and stuff are high up on the ladder. I know he's been high up on the ladder. He was beating really good players to get there. Oh well. All right, well, we hop into game number 2. We'll see if Fat Cat Chef can turn this around. And just talking about some of the other bracket updates as the brackets on just kind of moving around on the rest of the bracket. So we had Pox advancing over Slayer's Boner, who's Caliber for those who don't know. So Pox doing pretty well for himself. NYK facing off versus Cuddle Bear. Good luck, NYK. Psyark advancing on the Japanese player. And it looks like the next map is going to be Frost, so we're hopping in that pretty shortly. Xenocider advances on over someone I don't really recognize. Poke Bunny advances on. Game Time is playing versus State. Oh man, that must be a great match. Very interested to see who's going to end up winning that. Let's see. Maybe EJK who advanced on. No surprise there. Juggernaut Jason advancing on over Qualifier. And Insane advancing on over NL Ghost. So, just a few bracket updates, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to be hopping into the next game. Game number 2. So, we'll see you guys there on the map Frost. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in game number 2. We are going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map on top of the red Terran player from Root Gaming up 1-0. Give it up for Kelazhur. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. We have the pink Zerg player. Currently sitting down 0-1, but hopefully has some opportunities to come back with maybe some cheeky play. Give it up for Fat Cat Chef. Fat Chef. Is there a difference in that? Well, it does seem like we have a hatch first, so nothing super crazy coming out, but Frost is also another one of those maps where, well, you don't really see Reaper openings as much on this map, just because there is only a very limited area where the Reapers can actually hop around. There is this small little part right over here, but you can see that there's actually a cavern along this entire area. So really you can jump up along over here in the natural expansion, or you can jump up at this small little area over here. Or sorry, over here. This area over here on this low ground where this third expansion is, it's too high of a cliff for the Reaper to jump up. So the Reapers don't actually go up that cliff, but well, this Reaper is going to be able to get a nice little bit of damage done early on. Starbucks, or I should say Fat Cat Chef, may overreact a little bit just after how that last game went. He doesn't know just yet whether or not this is going to be a multiple barracks Reaper attack. But it seems like he's just droning up, so he's not really too concerned about it for now. And I think in the next like 10-15 seconds, he's going to know for a fact, like, yes, I am not getting all in once again. I can kind of safely drone up and just try and defend against a single Reaper, where he's already lost one drone and one Zergling. The one drone definitely does kind of hurt. One Zergling, a couple of Zerglings here and there is not the biggest deal in the world. Factory going up, and it does seem like we had a fast 2 racks opening over here from Kelazhur. So this is going to be that fast stim timing that I was talking about in that game with EJK that potentially Fitzy here was scared of or dealing with as he was playing super duper safe in those games. But, oh, nice potential almost around. Kelazhur finds a way through as he preemptively throws down the grenade, seeing that those Zerglings are about to get the full surround on him. And does manage to escape with his Reaper's life. Can utilize that a bit later on, if he so chooses to. But this is going to be a pretty scary stim timing push. And we do have a Roach Warren coming out fairly early on over here for Fat Cat Chef. So this is probably one of the best ways that I think a Zerg player can probably answer this, is just getting out a nice and fast Roach Warren and getting out a decent number of Roaches right around the time that the Marines try and go for that big push out. it really makes it substantially easier to deal with, just because those roaches with the extra armor do take substantially less damage from the Marines, just because the Marines say they do 6 damage. Well, you have 1 base armor, so guess what? You're only taking 5 damage per shot. Marines are one of those units that attack very quickly, so armor upgrades work quite well for them. We also have a very fast layer tech coming out over here for Fat Cat Chef. So what is he planning to do? Is this going to be some kind of Nidus Worm play with a 3rd Gas Geyser being taken? He does have a 3rd expansion going up behind this, so maybe not. And especially if there was going to be a Nidus Worm play, I think that he would need a 4th Gas Geyser to continue Roach production and also get up the Nidus Worm. Maybe a little bit more difficult. But he doesn't have to worry about a Viking or anything coming out anytime soon, just because Starport is busy producing these medevacs for the Marines. That's obviously going to be accompanying them with the stim push that's going to be finishing up and coming out pretty soon. Stim is just about 15-20 seconds away from finishing, and Kelazhur is getting up that 3rd expansion. He's got his Marines pushed into his main base, since he hasn't really gotten a lot of scouting information after scouting out, I guess, the 3rd expansion. He hasn't really seen the main base, the natural expansion, or anything along those lines, and I don't believe he's seen the roaches coming out, so he may just be a bit wary about the potential for there to be a Mutalisk transition, or heck, maybe even just concerned about a Nidus Worm play, because he saw that this 3rd expansion would go up pretty late. But the roaches are now starting to pop out in larger and larger numbers. The double medevac drop is finally over here inside the main base of Fat Cat Chef. We'll see if he can deal with this. He doesn't really have a lot of roaches over in his main base right now, but he does have some more that are joining in from the natural expansion. There we end up seeing the nice engagement. I mean, Kelazhur's taking some pretty good trades over here, but he is siphoning off and losing more and more of these Marines. And with more of these roaches popping out, it feels like Fat Cat Chef should be able to deal with this, just barely. Not exactly the most ideal trades, but hey, trading out those roaches for Marines, he gets a good defense up, he doesn't take any real drone damage, and he cleans things up without heavily overproducing units. Has maybe a small overproduction and still producing some more of these roaches, as he's maybe concerned about the next push out, which it seems like rightfully so. There's 2 more medevacs moving away across the map, but also droning up behind this. So I really do feel like Fat Cat Chef not sitting in the worst position in the world. I think that he's playing very safe right now, and Kelazhur with the 3rd command center now finished up, the 3rd orbital command can land and start mining. So Kelazhur is definitely sitting in a pretty nice position where he can continue this aggression, but I really feel like Fat Cat Chef is not in too bad of a position. The biggest problem I would say is that Fat Cat Chef just doesn't have any sort of tech transition right now. That is the biggest concern. He has a lair tech finished up, and that's all well and good. He has Galileo Reconstitution finished up. That's also good. But if you don't have any Ravagers out, you don't really have an Infestation Pit startup, as he finally getting that started now. You don't really have a lot that can deal with the transitions of Kelazhur, where he's going to be adding on all these production facilities, but also just getting out more and more of these medevacs. So dealing with drop harassment is going to be increasingly more difficult as he starts to take more and more of these bases, just because he's not going to have any anti-air defense. He's pretty much solely relying on queens, of which he has 3, as well as spore crawlers, which really isn't a solid defense, I would say. Well, we do have another drop trying to make its way in over here, and I will say, despite the fact that he doesn't have any sort of anti-air defense, despite the fact not having any sort of solution to the medevacs, he's doing a pretty good job of making sure he doesn't take any additional damage. He really has only lost those kind of initial drones from that Reaper harassment, as well as maybe a drone here and there from the drop harassment, but considering how aggressive Kelazhur's been with these medevac drops, he's been doing a pretty good job. And now we are at the point where, guess what? Fat Cat Chef has a pretty decent army supply, and if he tries to move out across the map, there is still a concern that he'll just get counter dropped and still struggle to deal with that, as well as the fact that now we have Liberators coming out into the mix. A couple of Ravagers are going to be complementing that, able to deal with those Liberators, but we could very well see a big push out over here from Fat Cat Chef, trying to take advantage of this big Roach army he's been making and building up for such a long time. But here, this is exactly what I was talking about, not really having much of an answer. The medevacs are forced back thanks to the Spore Crawler. The Spore Crawler is really well placed. But the medevacs realize what they can do, and they are going to be scooting around. I don't think that Kelazhur is caught onto the fact that there's a 4th expansion over there, but he is dropping over inside the main base, as well as that 3rd expansion, and he ends up having to lift away from the 3rd expansion. Main base doing a lot of damage over here, though. Not really getting a lot more worker kills, but still getting some damage done. Denying mining over here, kills off a gas guy that's going to halt the gas mining. That's going to be so important for the fact that Infestation Pit is finished up, and he's trying to get up to Hive Tech. Marines are also able to come into the third expansion and completely deny mining over here. Roaches and Ravagers should be able to clean this up again, but guess what? The Medivacs end up scouting out that fourth expansion. A couple of the drones may go down over here, as though Kelazhur is busy just microing over on the other front. And I think a Fat Cat Chef is starting to fall apart a little bit, slowly but surely. 1-1 upgrades finished for Kelazhur. He has 2-2 on the way pretty soon as well, and this aggression is just not halting. He's even focus firing down that third expansion, lifts up the Marines, and has almost killed off the main base. Behind this, he has a third expansion. He's getting up a fourth expansion. I think that Kelazhur is just in dominating control at this point. Fat Cat Chef did a really, really nice job of defending, but this is just going to be the big counter all-in. He's got to make something magical happen with this. Liberators, oh my god, that's a lot of Widow Mines, and this is going to be a really clumped up Corrosive Bile shot. Even kills off one of the Liberators in the mix, but is that enough? I feel like this may be a little bit too late, maybe? Kelazhur's losing a lot of his army. This is turning into a quasi-weird base trade. The drop over at the fourth expansion will be able to take something out, and this drop over inside the main base is still going on. Natural expansion is pretty much the only expansion that's really effectively mining, and as soon as that hatchery is killed off, these Marines are going to be heading down over to the third expansion. But here we go. The roach count is really starting to dwindle, and it looks like Kelazhur does have enough macro behind everything to clean up that force. There's no way he's going to end up dying to this. There just wasn't quite the sustainability, and a couple of Ravager shots go off, cleaning up the last Liberator, but doesn't really have a whole lot to fall back on, as we're down to 35 workers, and even with the drops being cleaned up, and even with Kelazhur's army being stimmed to death, I think this is going to be it. Kelazhur will move on to the round of 32 in the WCS North American Qualifier for DreamHack Montreal. Cool. So that was a bit more of a dominating series once again, but definitely a little bit more ordinary, and I felt like Fat Cat Chef showed a pretty good game in that last game. The game number 2, it wasn't quite as completely one-sided as I think I would potentially have made it out to be, but we're going to be hopping a short little break while we get the next game set up. I'm going to try and find an awesome and close match this time. That's really what I'm going to be focusing in on, so that we can get a really good series going. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. I want to note really quickly that State did advance on over game time, so I was eyeing that match. And Avilo is still playing his first round match in the round of 128 versus Dark. Is holding up Eric and Disrespect, who are both now finished all the way. I mean, Disrespect is waiting over in the round of 32, I think. So yeah, Avilo is holding out the bracket. Nothing new. We'll see you guys in a little bit.